My name is Hazel Hall. I'm 33 years old, a marketing manager living in Denver. And until 6 months ago, I believed that family meant unconditional love and support. I was raised to think that blood ties were sacred, that family would always have your back no matter what. That was before I got fired, publicly humiliated, in front of everyone who was supposed to care about me. But what they didn't know then, what none of them suspected, was that their perfect little scapegoat had been building something in the shadows, something that would change everything. I still remember standing outside the Grandview Hotel that night in December, the freezing rain soaking through my thin blazer, watching through the windows as they all continued celebrating my sister's promotion. The same night they terminated me from the family business, they were laughing, clinking champagne glasses, while I stood there, shattered. They thought that was the end of my story. They thought I was the failure they'd always painted me to be. They were wrong, and what happened next made them regret underestimating me in ways they never could have imagined. Growing up as the black sheep wasn't easy. While my sister Ashley basked in the golden child spotlight, I learned to live in the shadows. Ashley is 4 years younger than me, just 29, but somehow always miles ahead in our parents' eyes. Her social media influence career took off when she was just 23, and suddenly my marketing degree and steady job progression became invisible. Ash has 50,000 new followers this month, Mom would gush during Sunday dinners. Her sponsored post with Mountain Fresh Cosmetics got more engagement than any influencer in their history. I'd sit there, fork pushing food around my plate, waiting for someone to ask about my recent promotion or the major campaign I'd just landed for our company. The question never came. "Hazel, could you pass the salt?" Dad would say, and that would be the extent of my contribution to the conversation. Our parents, Linda and Robert Hall, always had a different measuring stick for Ashley and me. When I graduated with honors from college, they gave me a card with a $50 gift certificate to a local restaurant. When Ashley finished her associate's degree 2 years later, they bought her a new car. "She needs it for her image," Mom explained when she saw my face. "Her followers expect a certain lifestyle." Then there was Chad, Ashley's husband, an investment banker with more ego than empathy. He joined the family 3 years ago and immediately positioned himself as my parents' financial advisor, my father's golf buddy, and another voice in the chorus telling me I wasn't doing enough. "You know, Hazel," he said during one holiday gathering, swirling expensive bourbon in a crystal glass my mother only brought out when he visited, "if you'd diversified your portfolio like I suggested, you might be able to afford a place in a better neighborhood by now." I had declined his investment advice months earlier, something he took as a personal affront. What he didn't know was that I had my reasons, good ones, but more on that later. The pattern had been established early and reinforced constantly. Ashley needed. Ashley deserved. Ashley was special. Hazel should give. Hazel should understand. Hazel should be practical. In June 2021, Ashley called me in tears about her wedding. The venue she wanted had suddenly become available due to a cancellation, but she needed to pay the deposit immediately. $15,000, an opportunity of a lifetime, she called it. "I'll pay you back, Hayes, I promise. You know I'm good for it." I transferred the money that day. Wedding photos later appeared all over her Instagram, professionally shot, beautifully edited. My name wasn't mentioned in the acknowledgments post, thanking everyone who made her dream day possible. The money was never returned. When I brought it up 6 months later, my mother sighed dramatically. "You'll never be as successful as Ashley if you're this petty about money," she said. "It's just a loan between sisters." It wasn't just money, it was emotional support, recognition, basic respect. Last Christmas, while Ashley showed off the new diamond bracelet Chad had given her, I mentioned a creative strategy I developed that had increased client engagement by 40%. "That's nice, dear," Dad said absently, before turning to Ashley. "Now tell us more about that celebrity who commented on your holiday post." When I finally saved enough for a down payment on my apartment, they questioned why I would waste money on a modest place in a developing neighborhood, rather than continuing to rent the place they'd helped me secure after college, where they'd covered the security deposit, but reminded me of it constantly, despite my having paid them back within 3 months. "You're too sensitive," Dad said when I pointed out that they'd paid for half of Ashley's mortgage on her luxury condo. "We've always treated you girls exactly the same." The gaslighting was so constant, I sometimes wondered if I was crazy. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I should be more grateful. Maybe I didn't deserve more. September 2019. I received a significant raise at work. When I shared the news, my mother nodded and immediately pivoted to Ashley's new car. "Have you seen the interior? The leather is butter soft." March 2022. I was promoted to senior marketing manager. My father asked if that meant I'd finally be able to contribute more to family gatherings instead of just bringing those homemade desserts. November 2022. At Ashley's engagement party, my mother introduced me to her friends as my other daughter. She works in advertising or something. I was the director of marketing strategy at a respected firm by then. Each slight cut deeper than the last. But I kept showing up, kept trying. Family is family. I told myself, they're flawed, but they love me in their way. Then came December 17, 2023, the day everything changed. Our extended family had gathered at the Rosewood Country Club in Connecticut for the annual Hall family business meeting. Though I worked in marketing elsewhere, I held shares in the family's property development business, inheritance from my grandfather who had started the company. The shares provided a modest annual dividend. Nothing life-changing, but a nice bonus each year. The meeting was proceeding as usual. Quarterly reports, projections for the coming year, the standard agenda. I was half listening, scrolling through work emails on my phone, when I heard my name. "Regarding the matter of Hazel Hall's position," my father said, his voice oddly formal. I looked up, confused. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends. The weight of their stares made my skin prickle. "The board has decided to terminate Hazel's minority shareholder position," he continued, not meeting my eyes. "Her shares will be redistributed according to the new allocation strategy, with the majority transferring to Ashley Hall Brennan in recognition of her growing contribution to the company's public image." The room went silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. "I don't understand," I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. "What contribution? Ashley isn't even involved in the business." My mother cleared her throat. "Ashley's influence platform has been invaluable for our property showings. Her virtual tours have resulted in 3 high-value sales this quarter alone." This was news to me. I looked at Ashley, who had the decency to blush slightly before Chad placed a protective arm around her shoulders. "Additionally," my father continued, reading from a document, "the $25,000 inheritance from Margaret Hall's estate, originally allocated to Hazel, will be redirected to the company's digital marketing fund, under Ashley's direction." Margaret Hall, my grandmother, the woman who had taught me to bake, who had whispered to me on her deathbed that she was leaving something special just for me because you've always had to work twice as hard for half the recognition, my sweet girl. "You can't do that," I said, standing now, though I didn't remember getting up. "Grandma's will specifically—" "The will allows for family board discretion in allocation," my Uncle Philip interrupted. "It's all perfectly legal. The paperwork has already been filed." I looked around the room, searching for a sympathetic face. My cousin Emma, a family lawyer, wouldn't meet my eyes, though I saw her knuckles whiten around her pen. "This is wrong," I said, my voice shaking. "You know this is wrong." "Hazel, please," my mother said softly, "don't make a scene." But the scene had already been made, by them. 52 people watched as I was stripped of my inheritance, my position, my last tangible connection to my grandmother. 52 people said nothing. I grabbed my coat and purse. No one tried to stop me as I walked out. The drive home was a blur. I sat in my 2015 Honda Civic in the country club parking lot for what felt like hours, hands shaking on the steering wheel, mind racing. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be my life. I called my mother later that night. "Mom, please," I begged. "That money was meant for me. Grandma wanted it that way." "Hazel, you need to think about what's best for the family," she replied. "Ashley has the twins coming now. She needs security." The twins, Ashley's recently announced pregnancy, another reason she deserved more, needed more, was entitled to what was mine. And what about me? What about what I need? Her sigh was heavy with disappointment. "You've always been so independent. Hazel, you'll be fine. Ashley has always been more vulnerable." I hung up before I said something unforgivable. Sitting alone in my apartment that night, something crystallized within me. A certainty, cold and clear as ice. I would no longer be their doormat. I would no longer accept crumbs from my own family table. What they didn't know, what none of them had bothered to discover, was that Hazel Hall wasn't the struggling, unremarkable daughter they believed her to be. Let me tell you about the real Hazel Hall. In 2020, while everyone was locked down during the pandemic, I started a side business. I've always been creative. Those homemade desserts my father dismissed came with handcrafted packaging and custom designs that guests raved about. During those isolated months, I turned my crafting hobby into Cozy Crafts LLC, an online home decor business specializing in handmade, customizable pieces that brought warmth to people's increasingly important home spaces. What started as custom wall hangings and table settings quickly expanded. I identified a niche for personalized home office backgrounds, aesthetically pleasing, functional pieces that looked great on Zoom calls. As remote work became the norm, orders flooded in. I never mentioned it to my family. After years of having my accomplishments minimized, I decided to keep this one to myself. While Ashley posted endless selfies and product placements, I quietly built something real. By 2022, Cozy Crafts had grown beyond what I could handle alone. I contracted with artisans across the country, establishing a network of creators who worked under my brand. I maintained quality control, handled the business operations, and watched as my little pandemic project grew into a 7-figure business. I diversified with the profits. I made careful investments, not through Chad's recommended channels, but with a fiduciary financial advisor who didn't try to impress me with fancy cars or designer watches. Blue-chip stocks, yes, but also smart real estate investments in emerging markets. I became a silent partner in 3 Denver restaurants, the Blue Oak Bistro, Tuscany Gardens, and Silverstone Cafe, all thriving, all returning healthy profits. Then there was the marketing analytics software. During my day job, I'd identified a gap in how marketing teams tracked and utilized social media engagement data. Nights and weekends, I developed a solution, a software that integrated multiple platforms and provided actionable insights beyond what existing tools offered. I patented it and licensed it to Meridian Investments, a major financial services firm looking to better target their digital marketing. The royalties alone were enough to cover my modest mortgage 3 times over. By December 2023, when my family so publicly discarded me, my net worth sat at just over $2.3 million. The marketing manager with the sensible Honda and the developing neighborhood apartment was, in reality, more financially secure than most of the people who had sat in that room at the Rosewood Country Club. None of them knew. None of them had ever bothered to ask. After that night, I began planning, not out of vengeance, I told myself, but justice. They had taken what was rightfully mine. More importantly, they had never seen me, truly seen me, and I decided it was time they did. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of family chat messages where they mocked my career and life choices, emails showing how they manipulated situations to Ashley's advantage, bank statements proving the $15,000 loan and other financial inequities, text messages from my grandmother to me, discussing her inheritance plans and her wishes. I researched my legal options. On March 15th, 2024, at 7:42 p.m., I met with Diana Whitfield of the Whitfield Legal Group, a powerhouse attorney known for handling complex family financial disputes. "Based on what you've shown me," she said, reviewing the documents I'd compiled, We have grounds to challenge both the share redistribution and the inheritance reallocation. Your grandmother's intention was clear, and there appears to be a pattern of financial abuse. I don't just want what's mine, I told her. I want them to face what they've done, all of it, publicly. Diana's eyebrow rose slightly. Going public could complicate things. I'm counting on it. I knew exactly when and where I would make my move. Ashley and Chad had planned a lavish baby celebration for April 22nd, 2024, at the Grand Windsor Hotel in Chicago. Not a baby shower. Too common for Ashley. This was a formal evening event, with influencer friends, business connections, and family all invited to celebrate the coming twins. I wasn't on the guest list. Of course, my mother had called to explain. It's nothing personal, Hazel. It's just that after the unpleasantness at the family meeting, well, Chad thinks it would be awkward. Perfect. I had one unexpected ally. My boss, Victoria Reeves, had witnessed my professional growth over years and was appalled when I confided what had happened. I've met your sister at company functions, she said, frowning. All charm and no substance. I never understood why you downplayed your achievements around her. Victoria offered to provide documentation of my professional accomplishments and character reference. More importantly, she understood my need to set the record straight. Some families, she said, only understand boundaries when they're enforced with consequences. As April 22nd approached, I finalized my preparations. I booked a room at the Grand Windsor under a former colleague's name. I prepared my documentation, organized for maximum impact. I bought a dress, a Valentino I'd had my eye on for months, but had always hesitated to purchase, not wanting to appear flashy around my family. The time for hiding my success was over. The Crystal Ballroom at the Grand Windsor Hotel was exactly as ostentatious as I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, silk draperies, champagne flowing freely. I arrived at 7 p.m., precisely when the event was scheduled to begin. Security was minimal. Ashley would want to document the event for her followers, so there were no strict door checks. I stood in the entrance for a moment, taking it all in. Ashley at the center of attention, her baby bump prominently displayed in a designer maternity gown. Chad beside her, hand possessively on her lower back, my parents circulating, accepting congratulations as the soon-to-be grandparents. Several heads turned as I entered. The Valentino made a statement. Deep emerald green, perfectly tailored, exuding a quiet wealth that my usual understated wardrobe never revealed. I caught my mother's eye across the room. Her smile faltered. I moved through the crowd with purpose, nodding at relatives who stared in surprise. I approached the small stage where a jazz quartet was setting up for later. "Excuse me," I said to the sound technician. "I need to make a brief announcement. Family matter." He hesitated, then shrugged and handed me a microphone. I ascended the 3 steps to the stage platform as conversations around me gradually quieted. Ashley noticed me then, her perfectly contoured face registering confusion, then alarm. "Hazel," my father called, moving toward the stage. "What are you doing here?" I smiled and raised the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Hazel Hall, Ashley's sister. I wasn't invited tonight, but I have something important to share with you all." Chad was moving now too, whispering urgently to a hotel staff member who looked uncertain. 4 months ago, I continued, I was removed from my position in the Hall family business. My shares were redistributed. My inheritance from my grandmother was reallocated. All this was done publicly, at a family gathering much like this one. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some looked uncomfortable, others curious. I was told this was for the greater good of the family, that Ashley needed it more, that I would be fine on my own because I've always been independent. I nodded to a woman by the door, my assistant from Cozy Crafts, right on cue. She wheeled in a projector setup and began connecting it to her laptop. What they didn't know, what none of them ever bothered to ask, was what I've been building while they were dismissing me. The projector came to life, displaying a screen behind me. I clicked a remote, and the first slide appeared. the incorporation documents for Cozy Crafts LLC, showing me as founder and CEO, along with the company's current valuation. Gasps rippled through the room. My mother's expression shifted from confusion to ashen pale in seconds. While I was bringing just homemade desserts to family gatherings, I was building this, I continued, advancing through slides. And this. The partnership agreements for the 3 restaurants appeared, followed by my investment portfolio summary, the patent documentation for my software, the licensing agreement with Meridian Investments. My current net worth is $2.3 million, I said evenly. More than enough to buy this entire hotel, let alone rent this ballroom. Ashley's face had drained of color. Chad was staring at the financial documents projected behind me, his banker's brain clearly recalculating everything he thought he knew. But money isn't why I'm here, I continued, clicking to the next section of my presentation. I'm here about justice. Now the screen displayed text messages, family group chats where they mocked my career, screenshots where they planned how to manipulate me into giving more to Ashley, emails between board members discussing how to legally circumvent my grandmother's wishes. "This is fake! She's lying!" Ashley shouted, voice trembling, as her own words appeared on screen, describing me as the family checkbook to one of her friends. My father approached the stage. "Sweetheart, let's talk privately," he whispered, eyes pleading. "This isn't the place." "It's exactly the place," I replied, voice amplified by the microphone. "You chose to humiliate me publicly. Now you can be held accountable publicly." I advanced to the final slides, legal documents filed by the Whitfield Legal Group. I've initiated legal proceedings to reclaim my inheritance and shares, plus damages for financial abuse and emotional distress. I've also filed for an independent audit of the Hall family holdings to investigate potential mismanagement of assets. The room had gone completely silent. Then, from the back, my Aunt Margaret stood. "I always suspected something was wrong here," she said, voice steady. "The way they treated you, Hazel, it wasn't right." Others began to nod, a few murmuring in agreement. "Robert," called my Uncle Philip, who had supported my removal months earlier, "did you actually redirect Margaret's bequest against her explicit wishes? That's not what you told the board." The unified front was cracking, as family members began questioning each other, comparing what they'd been told. The carefully constructed narrative my parents and sister had built began to unravel. I handed the microphone back to the technician and stepped down from the stage. As I walked toward the exit, relatives reached out, some to congratulate me, others to apologize, many simply stunned into wordless looks. Near the door, I paused beside my cousin Emma, the family lawyer who couldn't meet my eyes at the Rosewood meeting. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't speak up." "You can make it right now," I told her. "The truth is all that matters moving forward." Outside, the spring Chicago evening was cool but pleasant. No freezing rain this time, no tears. I felt lighter than I had in years. The burden of pretending to be less than I was finally lifted. My phone began buzzing immediately. Family members, distant relatives, even friends of the family reaching out. I silenced it and slipped it into my clutch. They'd had years to really see me, to ask about my life, to treat me with basic dignity. Their sudden interest came too late. The aftermath unfolded faster than I anticipated. Within days, the family was in chaos. My lawsuit, filed formally the morning after the Chicago confrontation, sent shockwaves through the extended Hall network. Diana Whitfield's reputation preceded her, and the documentation I'd provided painted a damning picture. The $500,000 I sought in damages was actually conservative given the evidence. The judge assigned to the case seemed to agree, denying my parents' attempt to have the case dismissed and ordering mediation within 30 days. Social consequences came swiftly, too. Ashley's carefully curated image as a family values influencer crumbled when screenshots of her messages about me, and others, began circulating. Brands distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone exposed for financial and emotional exploitation. Her follower count dropped by nearly 100,000 within a week. Chad, ever the opportunist, began backpedaling immediately. He called me 3 days after Chicago. "Hazel, I had no idea about your business success," he said, his voice dripping with newfound respect. "Perhaps we could discuss some investment opportunities that would benefit us both." "I believe Diana Whitfield is handling all my financial discussions with family members now," I replied coolly before hanging up. My parents' response evolved through stages: initial anger, attempts at minimization. It was just a family disagreement that got out of hand. Then desperate reconciliation efforts. My father sent flowers to my apartment. My mother left tearful voicemails about family healing. I didn't respond. After years of one-way emotional labor, I had nothing left to give them. By early May, cracks in their marriage became apparent. My mother blamed my father for mishandling the business situation. My father accused my mother of enabling Ashley's entitlement. After 35 years of marriage, they filed for legal separation. Ashley's pregnancy became complicated by stress. She was placed on bed rest, with Chad increasingly absent as he worked late at the office. Later, I would learn he was frantically trying to salvage business relationships damaged by his association with the family scandal. Meanwhile, I focused on moving forward. I promoted my assistant to operations manager at Cozy Crafts and began exploring expansion opportunities. The business had thrived in relative secrecy. Now, with my full attention and public profile, it could grow even further. I moved out of my apartment, not because it wasn't good enough, but because I no longer needed to hide my success. I purchased a beautiful modern home in one of Denver's most desirable neighborhoods, with mountain views and space for both living and creating. In June, the legal proceedings concluded with a settlement. I received the full $25,000 inheritance plus interest. My shares restored with additional compensation and damages of $350,000. The family business would undergo restructuring with independent oversight, and my parents were removed from leadership positions. That same month, I was invited to speak at a business conference in Seattle about entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity. After my presentation on building cozy crafts during the pandemic, a man approached me with thoughtful questions about scaling while maintaining product integrity. "I'm James Elliott," he introduced himself. "I consult with creative businesses transitioning to broader markets." We talked for hours that evening, about business at first, then everything else. He listened, really listened, asking insightful questions and sharing his own experiences with family expectations and forging an independent path. For the first time in my adult life, I felt fully seen by someone. No need to diminish my accomplishments, no walking on eggshells to protect fragile egos, just authentic connection with someone who valued me exactly as I was. By July, I had established a new routine: mornings at my home office overlooking the mountains, afternoons at my expanded workshop space, evenings free for friends, self-care, or increasingly frequent video calls with James, who was based in Portland but visited Denver often. I built a chosen family of supportive friends and colleagues who celebrated my successes without jealousy and supported me through challenges without keeping score. I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who make space for your whole self. Ashley gave birth to twins in August, a boy and a girl. I sent a gift, but declined the invitation to visit. Some boundaries needed to remain firm, at least for now. She had found humility in unexpected places. With her influencer career in tatters and Chad increasingly distant, she had taken a job at Target to help with expenses. The experience of working retail, something she had never done before, was transformative, according to Emma, who kept me updated on family matters. She actually apologized to me the other day, Emma told me over coffee. For how she treated people when she was at the top, I think she might actually be growing up. My parents separated formally, though neither pursued divorce immediately. My father moved to a condo and began therapy. My mother stayed in the family home, joining a support group for parents estranged from their children, though estranged implied a mystery about why we weren't speaking, and there was no mystery here. In September, I received a handwritten letter from my father. Unlike the earlier attempts at reconciliation, this one contained no excuses, no minimization, no subtle shifting of blame. "I failed you as a father," he wrote. "I prioritized Ashley because she demanded attention, while you seemed so capable on your own. I mistook your independence for not needing affirmation or support. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm proud of the woman you've become. Not because of your business success, but because of your strength and integrity in standing up for yourself." I didn't respond immediately. Years of damage couldn't be undone with a single letter, no matter how sincere, but I tucked it away rather than discarding it. A small step, perhaps, toward whatever our relationship might become in the future. As fall arrived, bringing crisp mountain air and golden aspen leaves, I found myself reflecting on the journey of the past year, from that rainy night outside the Grandview Hotel to my new life of authentic success and genuine connections. I had traversed an emotional landscape I never expected. The revenge I'd sought had brought justice, but more importantly, it had brought truth. In exposing my family's treatment of me, I had also exposed myself, my real self, not the diminished version I'd presented to protect their feelings. That truth had set me free in ways I hadn't anticipated. James visited for Thanksgiving, and as we hiked through snow-dusted trails in the foothills, he asked about my family plans for the holiday. "I've been invited to 3 Friendsgiving celebrations," I told him. "People who know the real me and like me anyway." He smiled, taking my gloved hand in his. "They're lucky to have you, as am I." That evening, as we watched the sunset paint the mountains in brilliant orange and pink, my phone buzzed with a text. Ashley, sending a photo of the twins in matching turkey outfits. "They would love to meet their Aunt Hazel someday," the message read. "When you're ready, no pressure, I'm learning about boundaries." I showed the message to James, who squeezed my hand but said nothing, giving me space to process my own feelings. "Maybe someday," I said finally, "on my terms." He nodded. "Your terms are the only ones that matter." And that was the true victory. Not the money reclaimed, not the public vindication, not even the family reckoning that followed. The victory was in finding my voice, setting my boundaries, and building a life where I was valued for exactly who I am. They say living well is the best revenge. I disagree. The best revenge is living authentically. No more hiding, no more diminishing, no more accepting less than you deserve. It's not about making others suffer. It's about refusing to suffer yourself any longer. My name is Hazel Hall. I'm 33 years old, a successful entrepreneur living in Denver, and I finally understand that I've always been enough, exactly as I am.